Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Steve Wiedemann. We warmly welcome the family of Private Joseph James Sankey, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching this broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops at Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Joseph James Sankey. Joseph Sankey was born on the 27th of August 1887 in Dalby, Queensland. Known as Joe, he was one of 11 children born to John and Mary Sankey. Joe attended the local school and was working as a shearer at the outbreak of the First World War in 1914. Joe Sankey enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 29th of June 1915. Assigned to reinforcements of the 25th Battalion, he began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service in early August, sailing from Brisbane on board the troop ship Kyara. After a short stop in Egypt, Private Sankey joined his unit on Gallipoli on the 8th of December 1915. By the time he reached his comrades, plans were already underway to abandon the Gallipoli campaign. Sankey's stay on the peninsula was short-lived, as his unit was evacuated 10 days after his arrival. Returning to Egypt, the AIF underwent a period of expansion and reorganisation as new troops arrived and units began deployment. After continued training with his unit, Sankey and his comrades embarked for the Western Front in the new year, arriving in the French city of Marseille on the 19th of March 1916. The first unit to arrive, the men of the 25th Battalion, were given a short period to explore the city, and Sankey received punishment for being absent without leave, forfeiting a week's pay. Later that month, he travelled north towards the Franco-Belgian border, entering the trenches for the first time on the 4th of April 1916. Over the weeks that followed, Sankey's unit undertook training behind the lines, as well as short stints of duty in the trenches. In July, the 25th Battalion was sent south to the Somme Valley to take part in the advance on German positions around the French village of Pozières. The men entered the front lines around the village on the 28th of July 1916, preparing to attack under the cover of darkness the following morning. They began their advance just after midnight, tasked with taking 2 German trenches on Pozières Ridge. In 5 waves, the men of the 25th Battalion jumped the parapets, coming under murderous machine gun fire from enemy lines. As they pressed forward, Sankey and his comrades were hit by enemy artillery as well as fire from mortars. By the time they made it to the second trench, the battalion was so outnumbered that the men were forced to dig in for cover. Private Herbert Harris, who was also caught in the fighting, described the battle. Imagine men dug in, feet into the ground, and shells falling around them like rain. Trenches blown up and men digging for dear life to rebuild them, or rescuing their comrades who were buried, and in most cases, the rescuers were also buried by shells. When entering the trenches, we were bombarded with tear and gas shells, which made us wear our gas helmets. It was almost impossible to see and hard to breathe. I've heard officers and men say that the landing at the Lone Pine Battle of Gallipoli was a picnic compared to this last fight. Eventually receiving orders to retreat by the following morning, the 25th Battalion had suffered 340 casualties. Among the missing was Private Joe Sankey. His comrade, Private Bain, described the last time he saw him. Sankey was alongside me in charge at Pozières on the night of the 29th of July. We reached the German wire but could not get through, and while digging for cover, Sankey was badly wounded in the stomach. I was with him there for an hour before the order to retire, but could do nothing for him. I did not think it possible that he could have recovered. He did not talk much and could not bear to be touched. He was a thorough gentleman and a brave soldier, the coolest man I ever saw under fire. He was a universal favourite. It was not until 1917 that Private Joe Sankey was officially presumed to have been killed in action during his unit's advance on Pozières Ridge. His final resting place was never uncovered, and today he is commemorated on the Australian National War Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux, among more than 10,000 others who have no known grave. Private Joe Sankey was 28 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name on the Villas Bretonneau Memorial is displayed today beside the Pool of Remembrance. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Joseph James Sankey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.